Let's always drink the good stuff.
It's about food, art, travel, music, culture, lifestyle. It's interesting conversations with interesting people. And yes, sometimes it's even about drinking the good stuff. We're really happy today to have with us winemaker Chris Caruso. Chris, welcome to the podcast. I'm glad you're here. We've been talking about getting you on here. I'm glad you're here today. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Glad I could finally make it. You know, we've just kind of wrapped up harvest 2025, so it's amazing how it just still sneaks up on me. It's like, oh, I really can't do anything all fall.
So, how was 2025 harvest?
Good. So we had a cool year, kind of a late growing season, cool winter, cool summer. But really consistent temperature. And then we got a little tricky rain kind of in mid-October. So, I think it was forecasted really well. I think everybody did a good job of picking around it. So it was definitely a year you had to just be paying attention to the vineyard, but really high quality wines, like that acid levels are through the roof. So people got fruit really ripe, but really low pHs, a ton of acid. So it's exciting. Yeah.
So you'll have wines with lower alcohol?
So you could kind of do what you want. I mean, I think if you could get what you want this vintage. I think if you had a lot of hang time, you could get the bricks up there, and the acid didn't drop off. So, but if you picked earlier before the rain, that's you could do that too. So we're pretty blessed in Santa Barbara County that we got a really big harvest window. So yeah, we're not like racing up against the clock or whatever. It's kind of chill.
So for Santa Barbara County wine and the wines that you like to make, what breaks do you like to harvest at?
So personally, I'm kind of like shooting for somewhere like 22.5 to 23. I kind of like my alcohol to be in the maybe mid to upper 13s, but really it's just more about I like. So, I know some people probably think I'm doing al dente wine, but it's
being Caruso.
Right. It's not underripe. It's just ripe.
Okay.
I try to get the fruit when it hits ripeness, but I'm getting it off the vine before it starts to dehydrate. So, one thing about making a tiny quantity of wine like I do is, and I live about 10 minutes from the vineyards I source for, so I could really be on top of it. So, I'm out there every 2 to 3 days and, not necessarily fully sampling, but just, tasting the grapes, checking the seeds, make sure they're getting crunchy, skins start to wrinkle a little bit, but definitely I'm getting I'm not getting really ripe. So I like to, not underripe, but just properly ripe.
And what's your annual production?
So I'm still like in the neighborhood of 200 to 300 cases, although this year I did less. 2023, I had an opportunity to grab some extra fruit, so I think I wound up doing about 290 cases.
Entire production?
Yeah, tiny. So, it's basically like I'm still at the point where I'm selling it myself and just, doing everything myself. So it's really... it's a lot, even though it doesn't seem like it.
You primarily work with Syrah and Grenache, correct?
Correct. Yep. Have just done those two, Syrah and Grenache.
Why only those two varietals?
So I love Rhones, so they're my favorite, and I think that's what we really do best in Ballard Canyon, the AVA that I get my grapes from. It's an incredible area for Syrah, and I think Grenache as well. So that's what I love. Like plan B for all of this is I'm drinking all this wine myself. So it's got to be something I love. And, that's just what's always spoken to me. Pinot Noir is always out there tempting you to do it, especially up in Santa Barbara County.
Like a mysterious mistress.
Yeah, just over there in the Santa Rita Hills. It's just a few miles away,
right.
all this wonderful Pinot Noir. But, the name of the game to this is patience, so we'll get there someday. But for now, I'm really content with Syrah and Grenache, and I think they're just amazing examples. So
they say that behind every Syrah maker is a winemaker who's trying to make Côte Rôtie. Is that correct?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've had some amazing ones recently, and it's like if you love Syrah, like really like cool climate, mid to cool climate Syrah, I mean, it's like you have to specifically love that. It's like, there's just this bitterness and this. I feel like some of the Côte Rôtie wines I've had lately, they almost taste like blood. It's just such a unique expression, and it's I don't think it's very like commonly people would gravitate towards cooler climate Syrah. Like bigger Syrahs can just be more of like red wine, just kind of appeal to a broader palate. But real like Côte Rôtie, Cornas, Hermitage wines are, you got to love Syrah. You have to be a Syrah nerd to dig into this stuff. And that's kind of what I do. So, the Ballard Canyon vineyards I get from, they're not cool climate like Santa Rita Hills, but they're definitely a lot cooler than like anything like Los Olivos district or Paso Robles or something like that. So,
And is that who your customers are? People who appreciate that level of quality of wines, whether from Europe, France, or from Santa Barbara?
Yeah. I mean, people that generally like, what I'm doing is a very minimal intervention expression. I mean, it's just really translating the terroir. I only use neutral French oak and.
How long you age them?
So everything has been about 15 months, 14 to 15 months in barrel. All neutral oak, French oak. So yeah, just a pure expression of this is what these vineyards are producing. This is what the fruit tastes like. So yeah, it is somewhat maybe wine for wine nerds, which of course they all want Burgundy and Cornas, but I think I'm doing the best job I can of giving you the California version of that.
Of it.
Yeah.
And on top of that, your wines are organic.
Yes, yeah. Every wine I've ever made is from a CCOF certified organic vineyard.
Okay. Before we get into that, you are sourcing your grapes, correct? These
Yes.
are not from your own vineyards.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
What makes a vineyard organic in order to produce organic wine? Can you give us the background on that, please?
Yeah. So the wines are technically not organic wines. So it's tricky to make an organic product, I think, in organic wine in California. So the winemaking facility needs to be certified organic.
Oh, okay.
So I do not make my wine in a facility that's certified organic. So therefore, it's not organic wine, but it would meet all of those requirements.
Well, one way to get around it is to call it made from organic grapes.
Yep.
And that's acceptable by TTB.
Yep.
But what makes a vineyard organic?
So the organization is CCOF. They're the ones that do the certification in California. So there's just an approved list of like vineyard inputs. So it's less harsh chemicals. So you are still spraying. I mean, you can use inputs in the vineyard, but they're much less harsh than like a traditional farming. So there's no like glyphosate or Roundup, as it's more commonly known. So these vineyards are not using that. So there's an approved certified list of what's considered an organic vineyard input or spray, and you can only use those. So it's a pretty rigorous process to be certified. And even though some people farm that way, it's important to me to complete the process, do this certification. So.
And this is a multi-year process before a vineyard can be certified organic, correct?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It takes, because you got to take various gradual steps in order to cleanse the earth and make sure that you're fully compliant according to whichever certifying agency is certifying you.
Right. Yeah, like one vineyard I sourced from Kimsey. So I hope I don't get this wrong, but I believe that was planted in 2009 or 10. But that's been organic from day one. One of the other vineyards I sourced Grenache from is now called the Piazza Bella Vista Vineyard. So that was conventionally farmed for a while, but then there was like a 3-year process where they went away from using anything non-organic. So now that's certified organic. So,
and is the demand for organic wines growing?
So that's a tough one. So I mean, it should be. But I think there is a lot of confusion with labeling for what customers see, because it's so like my wines are not labeled or like that way. So I've had people tell me, well, if you don't have it on the label, what difference does it make? Well, it matters to me.
Sure.
And if you, just do a little bit of research, like hit up my website or just ask, I could tell you, yes, these are certified organic grapes. But, I think there's a lot of confusion in labeling and packaging. So I think people want to eat organic, but it costs more. There's no doubt about
Right.
it. So,
And do people associate, maybe associate organic wines for being less than top quality? Is that in the back of people's minds also, or no?
No, I think organic. I think like when you go to the grocery store and the organic strawberries are $7 and the regular ones are $4. But look at them; they look better. They taste better. So I do think people generally accept that organic is a far superior quality product. So,
But here's the thing. We were talking about traveling to Europe and visiting some wineries and vineyards. Most of the vineyards and winery owners I spoke with in Italy and in France, they do practice some kind of organic practices where some are organic, some are biodynamic, and so on. Yet that's not something they stress or they mention on their labels, because their customers who are buying the Grand Cru and the Premier Cru wines don't want to deal with that, or maybe they associate for less than perfect level of wine they're used to getting from those particular regions. That's why that's not something, although they do practice it, but that's not something they advertise.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's why, like, I don't. So, like the made with organic grapes. So I did not go through that process with the TTB to put that on my label. So yeah, to your point, definitely like maybe the customer doesn't fully understand, what's going in when you have to put organic labeling on something. But I still think it's the right thing to do. I mean, just for me personally, I drink my own wines. I think organic farming is the right thing to do. And so that's just what I'm going to do. I spend a lot more money on these grapes than I would have to if I got, there's definitely a premium
Right.
when I'm buying grapes to buy organic grapes. So,
And definitely it's more expensive.
yep.
How much more are customers willing to pay if they are appreciating, they are looking for organically made wines?
Nothing.
They're not willing to pay anything extra. Usually I read something that usually it's referring to organic goods in general. Customers are willing to pay up to 20% more to get that. Do you think that's true also in the minds of wine consumers?
Gosh, I just, anecdotally, I don't feel like I see that. So, at a farm stand where everything's organic, just, you could see with your eyes,
Right.
This strawberry, these grapes, this squash, these tomatoes look amazing, versus conventionally farmed products. So I think that's maybe easier to pay that premium at a grocery store or a farmer's market. But like with the wine, you can't tell. I think you can by taste, but prior to actually, taking a sip,
Right.
it doesn't appear any different if it's organic or not. So I don't know. It's kind of a mixed bag. I feel like I've asked, wine buyers at wine shops, this is organic. They'll tell me, my customers don't care, but some do. So,
Some do.
Yeah.
Some do. There's a whole younger consumers who are more into organic, natural, biodynamic wines. You said you drink your own wines, and that's a good thing. What other wines do you drink? What other wines do you enjoy?
So
Regions or varietals?
Yeah. I've, I really love Italian wines, Chianti, Brunello, so Sangiovese. I love Barolo, Barbaresco, Bordeaux. I always come back to Bordeaux. So, it's not the best wine in the summer, and it's pretty hot up in Santa Ynez. But sure enough, like it starts getting into fall, and I find myself opening Bordeaux more and more.
Mm-hmm.
So. And that, like, local wines from California, like there's just a lot of great producers in Santa Barbara County. You can really get a huge variety of different wines because of our transverse mountain ranges up there, and how far you are from the coast really dictates the temperature. So like my mentor, Paul Lato, I love drinking his wines.
He makes from Napa, right?
So he does buy some fruit from Napa. We make some Pinot Noir and Chardonnay from Hyde Vineyard, and he makes some Napa Cabernet. But the bulk of his program still is Santa Barbara County.
I see.
So,
Okay.
yep.
What does wine represent to you?
To me, I feel like it's a food. I mean, it really is like a food product. Like we always have wine with food. It's like a dish on your table. Like you wouldn't have a steak without a vegetable and a potato and a wine for me. So like I just wouldn't think about having a nice meal without pairing it with a nice wine. So, it's an artistic expression of a place and a time. It's kind of maybe cliche to say wine's a living thing, but that's absolutely true. It always tastes different. Every single day you would open it and throughout drinking it. So to me, it's especially like what I do and a lot of producers like myself, like these are completely handcrafted artisan products made from a specific place and, at a specific time. And it just kind of captures that into the bottle. So.
And growing up, was wine part of your family's one of food groups you just mentioned?
No, not really.
Well, tell us about you first.
Yeah. So I grew up in the Chicagoland area,
Okay.
Western suburbs, and I mean, wine really wasn't a part. My father was kind of a beer guy. And so wine really wasn't a part of growing up, but kind of where I came across wine originally was, so after college, downtown Chicago, I was in sales and so doing some entertaining for clients at steakhouses. So that's kind of where I first got into wine. So, ordering wines off of the wine list. I remember, early days, so like early 2000s, like Jordan, Silver Oak. I remember when I got my first really nice commission check from my job, I went into Sam's on Clybourne in downtown Chicago. I think that's a Binny's now, but I walked right into the guy and said, can I get a bottle of Silver Oak Napa Valley? So I had like $100 or whatever it was at the time. So I got it started out that way, probably like a lot of people. And then just, throughout the early 2000s, got more and more into it, first Napa, then Bordeaux. My real first trip to a wine region, actually, I went with my wife. We were going to a birthday party that friends were having. They're Basque. So we were in northern Spain in this little fishing village called Laquidio, not too far from Bilbao. And then we realized after this wedding, hey, we're just a couple hours from Bordeaux.
Or Rioja on the other side.
Yeah. So at that time, I was still kind of Cabernet was my thing. So, we went over to Bordeaux and just went to like this general, Ministry of Tourism wine tour. And it wound up taking us to some pretty amazing places. We went to a negociant. We went to Les Carmes Haut-Brion, and then this other one in Graves called Piquet Caillou. And I just remember, the Vinron there giving us the tour. He's always talking about the peoples, the little stones and gravel in the vineyard and enjoying that wine there. But then the real like taproot moment then was when we came back and I sought out those Château Piquet Caillou wines and we opened it up and had it for dinner and it's like it just transfers you right back there. So it was like now like it was the eye-opening moment. Oh, I get terroir, like this tastes like that place. And just all those memories came flooding back, and that's kind of where I went off the deep end. So,
and is that when you want to transition into getting into the wine business or winemaking? Is that when it was?
So that was, still a while down the road. So I mean, we're still in Chicago, so not much you can do on the production side, and it's you're in the frozen tundra. But so eventually, I just got into collecting, and then have expanded into Rioja, other areas of France, Italy, Spain. So in 2012, my wife got the opportunity through her job to relocate us to LA. Okay. So we moved from Chicago to LA, landed in the fall of 2012, and then, now we're just a couple hours from wine country. So I kind of feel like, we started out in the Paso region exploring that first. And then within a year, found ourselves in Santa Barbara County, and we're kind of like, this is the place. So I really think, we were doing a deep dive, exploring all the wineries, tasting everything we could from Santa Barbara County in like 13, 14, 15. And then finally, like late 2017, we kind of realized this is going to be the next chapter of our lives. We'd like to eventually come up here I always kind of had a bit of a creative streak in me. I never made anything. Not good at drawing, so I wasn't going to go into art. But I'm like, I'd like to try this. So my wife was very cool. Thank you, Christina, to say
it's
go
good
ahead.
To have a supportive spouse.
Yeah, absolutely. She's like, go for it. So in 2018, I enrolled in Allen Hancock College up in Santa Maria.
Okay.
So still living in LA at this time, but I was commuting 150 miles up there to take classes. Really great program. If you have had the opportunity to take any classes there, I think it was a really fantastic experience. So for 2 years, I commuted back and forth from LA and got my enology and viticulture degree. And you get to work with a lot of local winemakers there that teach at the school and really get hands-on. They have a wonderful winery at the college there. So you're working with real vineyards, making real wine. And so then COVID rolled around, and so I finished up my degree in the summer of 2020, and then because it went kind of work from home, school from home, my wife was able to kind of manage our daughter on her own. So she's like, go ahead and move up there, do harvest. So this is where I first got involved with Paul Lato. He made a wide variety of wines, all at the highest quality levels. I thought this would be a great experience, so I went in there and applied for the harvest internship. And he looked at my resume, heard my story, and he's like, if you're nuts enough to commute from LA to Santa Maria to get a degree in this, then I think you're probably committed enough. So that's where I started working professionally at my first harvest there. And so, it was 2020. So I learned a ton. I didn't make wine that first year. I just wanted to really absorb everything and started Chris Caruso Wines in 2021.
So is that the first vintage, 2021?
2021, yep.
And these are the 2022?
22, yep.
And you feel that the wines you're making will have to be in a bottle for a while before they really are expressive and give to the customer, the consumer, what you want them to have?
Yeah, I think so. The 2021s, were painfully young for a long time. So the vineyard that I do the Syrah from is Kimsey Vineyard. I think it's a very tannic vineyard. It's a lot of clay soil there, so bold structure, a lot of structure in those grapes there. The estate waits a long time before releasing their wines. So even the 15 months in barrel, and then I stored those for a year before I started tasting them too, and they still really kind of took another year. So now the 2021s are really drinking nice, but it took a while for them to come around. 22 is just a little earlier drinking vintage, like that. 22 actually probably drank, well earlier than the 21. 23 is like a monolith. I'm going to just be sitting on those for a long time. Yeah.
How about 24s?
So 24s are a little bit lighter style because it was cooler. So I think we're still kind of TBD on that. Need to kind of see how those shake out. But 21's drinking well, 22s are drinking great, and 23s I've just got stashed away. Those are epic, but those are going to need some time for sure. So
and who's your customer? What is your? I know we talked about briefly, but who's your customer? What are they looking for? And what are you able to deliver to them what they're looking for?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of interesting. I hear from people from all kind of different walks of life. It's I turned out to through a wine bar or a wine shop in downtown Santa Barbara. A lot of the editors and writers of the Santa Barbara Independent like my wines. So some professors at UCSB have reached out. They like the wines. So I just think people that probably I wouldn't consider them light-bodied, but definitely medium-bodied. Mm-hmm. Someone that just wants a wine that they can enjoy with food. It doesn't overpower food, good acidity. So just probably somebody with, that just wants a nice, clean, it's very minimal intervention, but very clean wines that go well with food, and they're complex. I'm not hitting you over the head with a massively extracted, really ripe wine. So it's someone that appreciates the nuance. It's almost kind of like Pinot Noir style in these Rhone varietals. So.
Right, but nevertheless, these are not everyday wines, so to speak, given the price point and given the customer appreciation of it. Correct?
I drink them every day, but
You will, but the fact that these are wines that are around $35-40 a bottle. You're not going to be able to sell these also. You're not selling these in supermarkets at the moment.
correct, right? Yeah.
So, which brings me to my next point. Making wine is one thing. Selling wine is a whole different thing.
Yep.
Can you talk about that, about selling and distributing your wines?
So yeah, that's funny. So, I mean, when you talk about like wanting to get into this for passion, there's making the product you want to make, and then maybe having a successful wine business are two very different things.
Right.
So, like if I was really interested in just like I would have probably started with less expensive fruit and tried to do something like a quicker turnaround. Something that could be like by the glass, like do a lot of volume just to get a wider footprint. But I feel like the best chance I feel like I had to hang around in this business was just to make the best quality wine I possibly could, and then let everything, let the chips fall where they may after that. So that's why I went for really expensive, organic Ballard Canyon fruit. I kind of wasn't initially concerned with what these would cost to make. The market dictates what they sell for. And, but I wanted to make the best wine I possibly could. That was definitely the goal. But yeah, like if you want to be a wine business though, there's a lot more $24 wine sells than $44 wine for sure. So,
But at some point, you will have to make that. Either you're going to grow the base, or you have to make some other wines as well to make it a fully functioning business.
Yeah, and so I think definitely, when I'm ready to expand, it would be probably just something more like a Santa Barbara County wine, so lower price point. So there's organic fruit out there, so that is something I definitely want to stick with. Is always having organic grapes. There's some lower priced organic fruit. Like Ballard Canyons there's not a lot of vineyards there. It's a pretty expensive AVA. But around the county, there's also nice farmed vineyards that are the fruit's less expensive. So I would seek to make kind of a lower price point wine that so I'm not by the glass at restaurants very frequently. There are a couple, like Farm Shop at the Brentwood Country Mart had my Grenache by the glass, and for a little bit last summer, it was up at Bouchon in Santa Barbara by the glass, but not wide by the glass, just due to the price point. But yeah, that eventually that would be something I'd branch into. So,
can you talk more about the whole distributing a wine distribution business? What it takes to have that wine by the glass at Bouchon or some other restaurants or at stores, wine stores, or whatever. Can you talk about that, please?
Yeah. So it's interesting because when I first started this, it was all about for years, like the first 4 or 5 years of this, I was just focused on learning how to make wine. So the last couple of years, I've been trying to learn the wine business, right. And it's definitely two different things, So I don't have a distributor yet or a broker. I'm completely just one-man show. I'm self-selling these. So what I do is, I reach out to people. I do the sales calls. I come down to LA. I go around Santa Barbara. I've had placements everywhere from San Diego up to San Luis Obispo. But it's tough just being a one-man show because a lot of wine buyers, like sometimes I'll come to a shop and I'll miss somebody. They're like, "Oh, can you come back in 3 hours?"
Right.
No. Can you come back tomorrow? Well, no. Whereas, if you're working with a distributor, they're kind of just in a, continuous circle around a small geographic territory, and they're going to be able to get in front of you much more often. So, I understand these buyers, they don't owe anything to me but unfortunately, sometimes I need a little consideration coming down, especially like around harvest time. So, But I just, try the best I can. That's all you can do.
And it's a very competitive business.
Yep, no doubt.
And and the fact that you don't have a distributor makes it more challenging to go and knock on doors, present the wine, have the buyers taste the wine, and they tell you, we'll consider it in 3 weeks or a month from now, which means you have to follow up. I've been through all that. So
Yep.
having said that, you sell your wines online as well, right?
Yep.
Okay. And how does that work? How is that working out? How are you able to acquire the customers to come in and buy your wines? How is that process working?
Yeah. So I actually don't do too much business through my website. So you can go to my website and order it, but I'm also just completely happy to have people buy my wines through the partners that I do have. But if I do get an order, then I bought shipping containers. I store my wine in cold storage. If I get an order, then I pack that up. I'm the one. I'm putting it in the box, printing out the shipping label. I have a FedEx account, and then I'm taking it to the FedEx Kinko's center and dropping it off. So, if it's local, then I do hand delivery. If I'm shipping within California, then I do that. So, but yeah, I mean, it's how I kind of generate awareness is I do pour at festivals. So I have done that's where I met you. I think Garagiste Festival in Solvang. I just recently did for Taste of San Ynez Valley, the Los Olivos wine reception right before the wine dinner. I've done Rhone Rangers in the past. There's all sorts of different opportunities. I didn't pour at the Vintners Association Festival this year just because that's a big thing. That's giving away a lot of wine.
And these are expensive propositions, right? Attending these events and pouring at these events?
Yeah. So some are free, but most of them have a table fee.
Right.
So when you're going to, like, as a customer, like I don't know if you know this, but like that winery there at that table, they paid, to be there at that table, and they're giving that wine away for free.
Right. I'm familiar with the system.
Yeah. So So I mean, it's really the wineries are making a big commitment to, to gain awareness. So.
And do you get the proper awareness if your wines are not on the shelves of their stores or restaurants?
I mean, it's like turning an ocean liner. I guess it's just it's at a glacial pace. So, I feel like definitely I'm always making progress, but no doubt it's slow. I feel like I feel it was like Richard Sanford said at one point, like creating a wine brand is a 20-year endeavor. I actually think it's probably like a 30-year endeavor. It's it's like a marathon. It's 26.2 years, and I'm still on like year 3. So I'm not even warmed up. But it's very slow but moving forward. So
given ABC laws in California, where you cannot sell the wine by the bottle to the customer, that takes away the impulse buy that the customer has when they're tasting your wine and drinking your wine, they're enjoying your wine. A lot of the events we go to, well, can I get a bottle or two? Sorry, you can't.
Right, yep.
You can go to the store or place it online. So that takes away from the impulse buy. And anyway,
yeah.
But unfortunately, it is what it is. But nevertheless, you do make great wines, and your wines regularly get a lot of high accolades, a lot of high scores.
Thank you.
Tell me about that, and tell me what those scores mean to you, or the accolades mean to you.
I mean, I think it's kind of a big topic in the wine business because, I'm proud of the score. There's no doubt. Like I would hope that people will have a sophisticated enough palate to purposely identify themselves like this is a good wine or this is a not so good wine. But it's nice to get a little bit of recognition with a score. I don't mind it. Like I know the wine is good, and the people I taste with appreciate it. But it's good to have the score. Like I've never gotten an email from a wine shop that didn't have the score in the subject line. So sometimes it's just what you have to do.
Well, it's a marketing. It's purely marketing. Yeah. Customers gravitate towards higher score wines, and makes it easier for the stores to sell the wines. But it also there's some wineries who don't believe in it for whatever reason, who also make great wines, up to the wine store retailers to pinpoint those to others. But as you said, there's a lot of discussion about that, whether some of these wines are getting the proper rating for whatever reason. But nevertheless, I mean, you've got like 95, 96 points on your wine, which are spectacular, and it makes the retailer's job relatively easier.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I buy wines off of shelf talkers. I'm not immune to it at all, because you don't always have the opportunity to try everything. So but if you align yourself with a critic and their palate, then when I see that score by that critic who I know and trust their palate, then that certainly helps me. And then I know what critics I don't align with, and a 97 from one particular person. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a 92. So yeah, I mean, there's, I know wineries, I have friends up in the business that don't submit their wines at all. And I feel like, I'm still in the learning process too. It's like, I'm still learning something new every day. Like, I think initially, like my Syrahs do need some time, and I feel like I probably submitted them to review too early. So like going forward, I'm going to even wait another year before I submit these wines to critics. So
exactly, it's a learning curve.
Yeah.
And this is your full-time job, correct?
Yes. So I still do work, like I give wine tours, and I help out in the wine cellars.
You're still within the wine industry.
Yeah. Wine industry is a full-time job.
Yeah. And how do you feel about that? Is it something compared to what you were doing before? Do you feel gratified as to what you're doing? Do you think this is satisfactory for you? Because I've noticed that a lot of people, including myself, who are in the wine business, have come to the wine business from someplace else.
Yep.
And I don't even think about my previous career anymore. I love what I do. I love being in this space of wine and spirits and talking with people like you. And I feel that when I'm interacting with people like you, I'm interacting with a nicer quality of people who have who have similar appreciations for wine. It's part of a lifestyle also that we enjoy. Mm-hmm. And looking back now and considering what you're doing now compared to before, how do you feel about the change you made?
Yeah, I mean, this business is hard.
And it's still a business.
Yeah. So, if I know there's certain romance involved into going into this, but it's definitly not easy. So it's probably much harder.
And people from the outside don't appreciate that.
It's harder than what I did before. But to your point, the people, I think wine drinkers are curious people. And that's great to always be able to speak and interact and deal with curious people. They want to learn. They want to try new things. They also like art and music, right. and a wide breadth of topics. Travel. Wine people are always into travel. Always get great recommendations on places to go. They're going to know the best restaurants. If you have somebody that's a wine drinker, I trust where they're going to tell me to eat too. So.
Well, that's why this podcast is about food, wine, travel, music, culture, art.
Yep.
This is the things I'm interested in, encompass my interest and the people I like to talk with and interact with. So I totally agree. It's the quality of people you work with, you deal with, is different, and there's a separate appreciation for what wine brings to the table. No pun intended, but nevertheless, It's a lot of familiarity, and which I really enjoy.
Yeah. I definitely, I learn something new every day still. After being in this since kind of 2018, I'm still learning. So almost every day I learn something new. So you can't be closed-minded to just everything. Like even working with the vineyards, like if you've got 2022 is a good example. So we had a big heat spike over Labor Day, and I went out into the vineyard when it's 115 degrees and the grapes look all dried and shriveled up, and you're like, oh man, but then I talked to everybody around me and they're like, just chill out, patience, just wait. And sure enough, you go back there 2 weeks later and it's all recovered. The vines have, put the water back into the grapes and everything looks healthy and wonderful again, and it's all good. So it's really learning about how to just kind of chill out and
Patience.
yeah, trust the vineyard and have patience.
Trust nature.
Yes.
We were talking about this earlier. Traveling is big part of my wine education as well. Not just simply because I just love traveling, but nowadays when I'm traveling, there's always either a wine show or a vineyard travel visit component, which is purely educational. I mean, I'm learning a lot. I mean, and you learn why things happen or why people do what they do. It's just fascinating to me. That's why it just broadens one's horizons, and you see things that you would not be exposed to seeing things. And I really appreciate what you said before about drinking other people's wines as well. I know some winemakers who only drink their own wines. Mm-hmm. And they have no idea what anybody else is doing, what the world is offering. That's not a good way of making wine. You got to know what else is out there.
Yeah. I mean, especially one of the things I did when I first decided, okay, so what vineyard am I going to source grapes from? So I probably drank 40 different wines from the vineyard I buy fruit from in Ballard Canyon. I tried every single producer making these wines, and that's kind of where I thought, well, I like what they did here. I didn't like what they did here, and that's kind of how I came into I feel like I have something to say. I can make an expression from this vineyard that maybe nobody else is doing. So by trying every single other wine from those vineyards over a couple years, that's how I kind of dialed in what I wanted to do.
And you specifically wanted to be in the Santa Barbara area.
Yeah. I think it's a stunning place. So yeah, if I could talk about that for a minute.
Please, yes.
So the funny thing is we were in LA for 10 years, and then, I've relocated up there full time now. And I have wine friends in LA that still think I live in Paso Robles. They don't understand that there's a big wine region in between LA and Paso. Mm-hmm. Maybe you can't see too many vineyards off the 101 as you're coming up north, but we're smaller producers. We don't have big mega producers. I don't know if anybody's making over 100,000 cases. Maybe one or two people are, but the average producer there probably is making less than 10,000, even less than 5. A lot of the brands I love. So we're tiny. So, we don't get out into mass distribution. We're, probably not going to find us in Costco in Houston. But it's a beautiful area. People are always shocked. Like I mentioned briefly, so over the last couple months, I've been giving tours. And I get a lot of people that, we were in Napa last year. Now we tried to come here. This is more beautiful than Napa by far. If you don't believe me, just come see. We have 2 amazing mountain ranges, the Santa Ynez Mountains and the San Rafael. So what makes Santa Barbara very unique is that we have transverse mountain ranges. So most mountain ranges on the coast are north-south. So Willamette, Napa, Sonoma, these run north-south, so the temperature is the same throughout the entire region.
I see.
So that's why you've got Napa, Cabernet Sauvignon, Willamette Valley, Pinot Noir, Paso Robles, Big Reds. So we in Santa Barbara County kind of have everything, and it's depending on how far you are from the ocean. So we're open to the ocean to the west, out past the city of Lompoc. So for every mile you get from the ocean, it gets about 1 degree warmer. All that ocean influence comes off the coast, blows up through the Santa Ynez Valley. So it can be 70 degrees in the Santa Rita Hills on the same day that it's 80 degrees in Los Olivos, and it's 90 degrees in Happy Canyon. So we can have Pinot Noir.
You're further away from.
Right. It's every mile you come from the ocean, it gets warmer. So I can leave my house in Santa Ynez and it's 95, and 20 minutes later I'm in the Santa Rita Hills and it's 75. So, you've got perfect conditions for Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. In the mid-range, you've got the Rhones, and then the hot areas, Happy Canyon, you've got Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and we do it all well. Everything is grown in the right place, and that's completely unique. And, it's really special about Santa Barbara County. It's just absolutely beautiful. There's all these small boutique producers that are really making handcrafted products. I mean, every place, myself included, every place that I taste at and take tour groups to, all these vines are grown by hand. We're hand pruning, hand leafing, hand harvesting. There's no factory at all. Everything it's a labor of love, and it's all handmade artisan products. So like if it would be imagine like getting a hand knit sweater or a handmade pair of jeans. They're gonna be a little bit more expensive, but actually I would argue for how much goes into this, it's actually a really good price. So,
And I find the wines in Santa Barbara County to be more nuanced, more textured, as opposed to the big fruit that you get from Paso Robles.
yeah. I mean, we're definitely cool climate. It's a lot cooler than you think it might be. Like even this vintage, like I saw fruit at 25 bricks that was at 3.25 pH. So, I mean, like we really hang on to acid really great. So we have very fresh, a lot of minerality, fresh, focused wines. We get that beautiful California sun still gets these wines really ripe. I mean, they're fruity wines, but they've, just, got that wonderful ocean quality. So,
What's next for your wines?
man, so, it's interesting because, a lot of people tell you what they want to see from you. Like especially at festivals, like I just make red wines, so I hate when people come up to my table and like, where are your white wines? I'm like, oh, I don't have any. They're okay. We'll be back. We're just tasting white wines first, and then you never see them again. So, so I don't, have any desire right now to make a rosé. I don't know what I would have to say about that, but I definitely like to do a white wine very soon. Branch out a little bit, but it's got to be definitely intentional and thoughtful. So,
And would it be Chardonnay or Viognier?
I like Italian whites.
Okay.
So there's some good fruit around the valley.
Organic fruit?
Yeah. And so I think that's something I'd like to branch into is kind of just doing a really like maybe a Vermentino or something like that. So,
And have you been experimenting?
a little bit, yeah.
And also, are you also experimenting with other reds?
So I have not to this point. I think the big thing is like maybe what I would love to do someday is make a great Sangiovese, but it's tricky. Like I don't know if in Santa Barbara County if we're always growing it in the right place. Like I have Italian friends that tell me, Tuscany is cooler. It rains during the year. It's cooler than you might think. And I feel like right now a lot of vineyards with Sangiovese are in hotter areas in the county. So we'll see. Like I'm still looking out for maybe if I could ever find the right Sangiovese. It's something I'd love to do at some point. But
Is there the urge to make the reserve level Syrah or Grenache?
no, I don't think so. I mean, everything I make
There's always a temptation, right?
Yeah. I mean, what would that mean? Like just a bunch of new oak, I guess, or that's not something I want to do. So I like one thing I really find interesting about Bordeaux is that like they have a grand vin. It's like nobody goes into Bouton Rothschild and asks where's the white or where's your rosé. Like you're there for the main show, and so that's kind of like what I like to do. This is the best thing I can make. I'm doing the best job I can at it. Like here it is. Like if it's not something else you were looking for, like sorry, but
You can't be everything for everybody.
right. And
Talk about your labels. What can you tell us about? Is there artists involved? Was it your creation, or can you talk about it, please?
Yeah. So the label designer is Michael Kurtz. He lives up in Portland. So his label company is called Heroist. So I kind of came across him because actually Paul Lato was out sampling some fruit back in 21 at Bien Nacido, and he ran into Maggie Harrison, who was she has a brand up in Oregon, Antica Terra, really fantastic wines. And Paul had a conversation with her, and then I think they talked about like that her husband is Michael, the label designer. Oh. So Paul's like, yeah, you should reach out to him. Like he does some amazing work, and I, found a lot of his work online, and I'm like, yeah, these are like not even knowing it. Just some of my favorite labels in the county turned out to be his work.
Wow.
Like Joy Fantastic and Tyler and Larner Vineyard labels use him. I think he does a lot of labels for Raj Parr's projects. So I reached out, and we really had a lot, of artists that we liked in common. So I like mid-century art, like Richard Diebenkorn, that whole Bay Area figurative movement. I like David Hockney, and so like these type of artists, like where there's almost like a little bit of pop, in there, like these colors. It's kind of avant-garde a little bit. So just we really didn't talk too much beyond just what artists we had in common. And then Michael came back to me with a couple different variations. And it's the funny thing is, initially, this is the one that I liked the least at first because it's kind of striking.
It is striking.
Yeah, the others were safer. But then the more I thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, this is the one I keep looking at. So yeah, let's do this. But the original draft had kind of wine splotches around my name. And that just, like, everybody kind of thought it was like kidneys or meat or organs dripping blood. So we got rid of the wine.
Not only that, it takes away from the brand.
Yeah, we got rid of the splotches, but then otherwise, like, that's how it turned out. So I, like, what is it? Well, I asked him, and of course it's abstract, so there's no answer. He doesn't say what it is.
But they look like tulips sometimes, inverted tulips or pops.
So that's a new one. I've gotten cuts of meat, wine glasses, tulips, stones, little kidneys, pebbles. I thought it was wine skins. So if you look at kind of other labels that he's done, it's probably stones, but it's abstract. It's whatever.
Well, very interesting, very striking, and it grabs attention. That's wonderful. Well, Chris, thank you very much for coming by. I really enjoyed our conversation, learning about you, learning about your wines, learning about Santa Barbara. I love that region, area. I go there fairly often, Santa Ynez, Solvang, that whole area. I love it there. And as you say, it's a beautiful place. I really, really enjoy it. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is awesome.
And remember, always drink the good stuff. Cheers, everybody.